cities had begun to keep us. Not by power, by repetitions of fiction the exact, to resemble the form. There are places one crosses, and others one begins without consent to inhabit. We pass below a bridge I had not looked at in centuries. Stone water light on the canal, nothing rare, nothing worthy of memory, and yet a fragment returned. A boy with charcoal on his fingers, a hand still patient enough to draw what it had not yet learned to lose. Roxas Conrad, preliminary, unfinished, still seated at the edge of the world, as if the world intended to keep him. Je n'en ai presque rien gardé, seulement l'angle de l'arche, le froid du parapet, l'habitude du trade. I showed it to her, not as confession, as evidence. In return, she told me something smaller and more dangerous. A childhood corner, half hidden, curtains, dust, a narrow alcove by a window. A place once loved for being enclosed without being cruel. That detail was enough. The rest aligned itself. Not all prisons are built with iron. Some continue long after the lid is gone. She told me what I had already deduced. Small spaces had once offered refuge, now they offered only return. That truth did not weaken her, it altered the air. So I considered the bridge again, the recess beneath the second arch, open on both sides, stone canal, wind, no door. A place one could approach without humiliation. Nous pourrions y revenir lentement, sans méthode imposée, sans victoire à produire. I asked whether trust had survived intact enough for that. It had immediately, no delay, no irony. That answer reached further in me than it should have. I have kept centuries without asking anything of them, but that afternoon I permitted something more imprudent. The possibility of repetition shared. Not eternity declared. Words, a place revisit. A gesture resumed. A city beginning to take our shape. At midday she ate. I accompany the ritual. Bread still yields to the teeth. Fruit still breaks correctly. Wine still obeys gravity. The rest is approximation. Taste survives in diminished form. A pale translation of function. Enough to imitate participation, never enough to nourish. She knew this, she let the illusion remain intact. That too was a form of elegance. Later when the streets had thickened and the hour had softened, she drew me aside herself, not far. Only beyond the line where the city could pretend not to witness, I took from her what the world no longer gives me in full. Not as hunger only, not as desire only. Those distinctions had begun to fail in me.
What answered in her pulse and what answered in her presence
No longer remained entirely separate. Je buvais parce que j'ai faim. Je restais parce que je l'aime. By then, the two impulses had learned too much of one another.
Not greedily, not gently other,
According to the truth of what I am, and the more dangerous truth of what she permits only to me.
There are moments in which the architecture of a city,
The fate of kingdoms, the continuity of crowds, lose all persuasive force. Her pulse beneath my mouth, her body yielding without retreat, the living certainty of her in my hands. These were argument enough against the world. Si elle était restée contre moi, la ville aurait pu se donner aux flammes. Je n'y aurais vu qu'une perte inférieure.
that sentence pleased me then.
I did not yet know how exact it was preparing to become.
She had begun to love the time that I had begun to believe.
The city might deserve to endure for having contained us. This was error, a refined one, almost worthy of respect. We resumed walking toward evening.
No omen declared itself,
No sky altered,
no crowd scattered.
only the ordening return of stones beneath our steps, lamplight preparing itself in windows, and that false mercy by which the world maintains proportion for 1 second more than it should. Then I stopped,
Not from thought,
from instinct.
there are forms of death.
The body reads before language.
This was not hunger,
Not matter in the singular,
but panic.
something larger, something opening its jaws beneath the city. My whole nature turned at once toward the fact that mattered. I looked at Ceres with the full violence of recognition. Periculum venit, not as warning, as a rival. The city had begun to keep us. It would not be permitted to keep us long.